Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming in. And today we're having Kevtech today presenting on how to build your own home lab. Take it. You can
Hey, how
take
you
it. Yeah.
doing? Hey, how you
Uh,
doing, guys? I hope everyone's having a good day. Thank you for inviting me to speak and present today. Today I want to go over how to create a home lab, and I also want to go over what's the value of having a home lab and why we use it and why it's important. But before I even do that, I like to introduce myself a little bit because nobody knows. People are gonna be like, "Who's this random guy speaking on the camera?" So my name is Kevin, and a lot of people know me as Kevtech IT Support on YouTube. So I do a lot of help desk IT support videos, desktop support videos. I go do mock interviews. I go over resumes, a little bit of everything, pretty much. And I'm also a tech trainer, and I also work full time as a senior desktop infrastructure support for executives for a fintech company. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about me. If you ever feel like you're struggling in IT and you feel like you don't belong in IT, you could always come and talk to me. I was like that when I first started IT because if you guys don't know anything about me, I have a restaurant background. I had no IT experience. I knew absolutely nothing about A plus. I knew absolutely nothing about any certifications or computer or PC parts. I am the perfect example of someone that comes from absolutely nothing. So if you ever feel discouraged about getting started in IT or trying to pivot into IT, don't be afraid. We have a community of people that want to help you. Just come by and ask for help, okay? So now I'm gonna get started and I'm gonna share my screen. If you guys have any questions, you guys could ask me along the way. So let me share my screen real quick. Let's see here. You guys see my screen? Let me
yes,
know if
we
you guys can
do.
see my screen. All right, good. So we're gonna go over home labs, VMs. So what is a home lab? So a home lab is building a VM, a virtual machine, and learning hands-on skills. You could also learn and gain valuable experience by building a lab for help desk, server admin, network admin, and I'm gonna go here. Okay, so why do you need a home lab? What's the importance of having a home lab? So usually, when I talk about home labs, you want to make sure you have a decent computer that has Windows 10 Pro or Enterprise. You want to make sure that it's not a home edition because it may not work. You want to make sure that it has Hyper-V or virtualization. You could also use your laptop, and if you have a really good laptop, a fast laptop, you could definitely create a home lab using your laptop. But just make sure that you enable virtualization on your BIOS on your laptop. Otherwise, the VM things are not going to work. And also for me, like what's the recommended specs for a VM or I guess setting up a VM? That is entirely up to you, but typically I say 16 gigs of RAM because I don't want you like dealing with issues where it's slow, it's sluggish, it crashes, you cannot run multiple VMs. Those are the things that I do is I do run multiple VMs because I have 64 gigs of RAM, right? It's a lot of memory. Make sure you have 250 gigabytes of hard drive space is very important. You can always buy like a cheap PC or a desktop or laptop on like eBay, Amazon. I see people go to PC Part Picker. Really depends on what you have, right? What money you have, and I also I didn't add it to the slide, but another thing you guys could do if you don't have money to do it on your if you have no money to do it on your computer or you just can't do it on your computer for some odd reason, I always tell people do it on the cloud. So actually you could do it for free on Azure, Microsoft, or you could do it for free on AWS. Just throw an instance in there. Just be careful with that because they will charge you an arm and a leg. So you want to make sure you shut down your VMs and they don't charge you for that, right? So Microsoft actually gives you a $200 credit. You could build a VM from scratch right there. You could do Server 2016, Server 2019, and then you could set up another VM of Windows 10 operating system, and then you could just all that together. And then when you don't need it, just shut it down, and then you're good to go after that and call it a day after that. And we could go over that, but I'm not gonna go over that today. We'll go over that in another video or another day where I'm training you guys. Okay? So let me go to the next slide. So what are the requirements for Hyper-V? Actually, this is the specs right here. So it's Windows 10 Pro. Obviously, there are different versions of Windows 10 operating systems. You got to have a good CPU. You got to have a minimum requirement of 4 gigabytes of space. This is how you enable Hyper-V and PowerShell. Is basically what this is. I'm gonna go to the next slide. So, what are the benefits of having a home lab? So, if you guys don't know me from YouTube or you don't know me from my personal experience, I've seen people get jobs just having a home lab because the reason why I say that is because it's project work, right? when you could show a hiring manager that you're able to do something, you're able to sell yourself, the hiring manager is going to give you a chance. So it's very important that you create these projects, these home labs and stuff like that. It also gives you valuable experience to market yourself. It also doesn't affect your personal PC. And the reason why I stress this is because a lot of people try to install Server 2019 on their own personal machine by accident. Like, Kev, I'm sorry, I put it on my computer by accident. Like, no, don't do that. You got to put it on your VM. So just be careful with that. Make sure you put it on the actual VM, not your physical desktop. And you could always delete it, right? So if you have like a VM, you could always delete it and start over again. Or you could do a snapshot of it. It's very important. The other thing is you could talk about it during your job interview. So like I said earlier before, if you have a job interview and you're talking to a hiring manager, it goes back to this, because I seen people get jobs, and that was a perfect example of one of my friends and colleagues that he applied for an MSP job, and they asked him like, how, like, we have no, I see a project work on your resume, but how do you learn that? Like, what did you do exactly? I would like to know what you did. And like, oh yeah, so I installed the ISO of Server 2019, and I put it on a VM, and then I installed Active Directory. Then I created user accounts. Then what I did was I joined a PC to the domain by creating another VM. I put Windows 10 on it, and I installed the ISO on that. And then I joined the PC to the domain. I started creating user accounts. I started unlocking accounts, and he just started talking about that. And the hiring manager was very impressed by him, and then he gave him a job. And that's a real example. He didn't have any certifications. All he had was a home lab, and he was just confident about speaking about that. So it's very, very important. Another thing with home labs, which I really like, is kind of cool, is that you could replicate an issue a user's having on their computer, and you could basically reverse engineer that. So you could actually, what I usually do is I usually go and I create the user's issue on my computer on a VM, and then if I know how to fix it now I could reverse engineer it and I could fix the problem for the user. So that's the other thing. And then the last thing, obviously, you build confidence, because sometimes we do have self-doubt, right? We doubt ourselves way too much, right? It's normal. It's part of life, right? So it definitely builds confidence. And go to the last slide. So what's an example of home labs? You could watch I have a help desk playlist. I'm going to go over some stuff today. Cover help desk, Active Directory, and stuff like that. Another example of home labs for networking, which I've seen people do, they use Cisco Packet Tracer, or they buy a Cisco router. You buy like a cheap router and then just set it up from scratch. And then for cybersecurity, I've seen people do TryHackMe, Hack the Box, Pentester Lab, Range Force, a bunch of wide varieties of things. It's entirely up to you. So that is pretty much it for my presentation. But I am going to show you how to actually create an actual lab, because that's the purpose of today's video. So I'm going to close out of this, right? Give me a second. And let me share my screen again. And I'm going to go back to this one. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to do VMs and stuff like that. So if you go online, if you go to the website, so I went to the website already. So if you do Oracle VirtualBox, right? You go here and download it. So I downloaded it already, and obviously you go to the right one. Like I have Windows operating system. You could do it on another client like Linux or whatever. So that's what I did. That's the first thing you would do. The second thing you would do is you go into Windows Evaluation, ISO, right? And you could do like 2019 or whatever works for you. And I would go here and go to this and get to download the ISO. You can actually download the ISO on the website, and then pull your information, then download now. And for you guys that don't know anything about this, like I know that some people put fake emails here. Like you could put a fake email address or whatever. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend you actually put your email address, because when you do that, you actually get notified about events that they do. Sometimes they have free Microsoft events where you could get certified for free. That you get like Azure certifications for free. So I recommend you actually put your actual email address in here. That's what I recommend. I'm going based on my experience, because they always email me all the time about free things that they give out. So
Yeah, it's real. I took the AC 900 and the SC 900 for free before they made it free for students through those events.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely recommend put a real email address in there. Don't put a fake one in there. Just download the ISO. And the last one is obviously Windows 10. So you want to download Windows 10 ISO or whatever. The reason why I do 10 because I don't like 11, but just for now. So you download those three things. I already had downloaded all these things already. That's just me because I did it already. I came prepared for this. So what you want to do is you want to open up Oracle VirtualBox, and I have it on another screen. You can't see it, so I'm gonna put it on this screen. So I'm gonna open this up real quick. So what you want to do is you're gonna create a new one, right? And then we're gonna do server 2019. Can call it Raices, right? And then here you could change the drop down to 64-bit. I'm gonna hit next. And then this is how much memory you're gonna allocate to the VM, right? So if I go to the start menu and I go to the task manager, right? And if you go to performance, I have 64 gigs of RAM. This is 63.9. So it's just like it's not gonna do anything to me. I have a really fast computer. So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna put about 8 on it, right? And then I'm gonna create a virtual hard disk now. I'm gonna create. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it as a VDI virtual box disk image. I'm gonna hit next, and I'm gonna hit dynamic allocate, and then I'm gonna leave this as 50. Leave it as default with 50. So this is the same thing as the hard drive space. So how much space are you giving to this VM, right? So I gotta go over here, right? I gotta go to this PC, and I have 580 gigabytes of free space available. So I'm gonna allocate 50 to it. I have enough space here, so I'm gonna do create, and that's literally it. That's literally how you create a VM. Now you gotta install the ISO. So I have an ISO right over here. I have a few of them. I have this one right over here, right? So how I do it, the easiest way to do it, right? Just hit start, and it's gonna try to start the VM, right? Immediately, it's gonna go to the drop down and pick that one, pick that ISO. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna hit this. So this icon here allows you to select and go further into looking for an ISO or a disk, right? I'm gonna hit add, and I'm gonna look for the ISO. So I have an ISO. If you see here, I have a bunch of them. I have Fedora over here. I have VMware over here. I have a bunch of them. So I'm gonna go to the desktop, and I'm gonna download. I have this one right over here. This is probably the server 2019 one. I'm gonna guess is that one. I'm gonna hit choose, and I'm gonna hit start. So now it's actually starting that ISO. It's actually trying to boot into the ISO. So this is like think of it as you putting a CD on your computer and then you're running that CD. That's basically what I'm doing, but I'm doing it on a VM. So in case anyone gets confused, that's what it is. So it
I
says
hope
repair your
everyone
computer.
knows what a CD is.
Yeah, as a CD. So I'm gonna hit install now. So just give that a second. It's fairly easy. This isn't complicated. And I'm going to do desktop experience because it gives you the option here. You'll have like the GUI and the start menu and all that good stuff, right? So I always recommend clicking the second one. I'm gonna hit next. Just give that a second. You're gonna accept the license terms of agreement. Nobody reads this anyway. Next. And then here you're not upgrading anything. We're not upgrading because we haven't installed anything, right? So you're gonna install Windows on the bottom. And usually you could format the CD and you can do partitions and all that. I'm gonna leave it alone as it is, right? I'm gonna hit next, and now it's installing. Simple as that, easy. It's like super easy. This is not rocket science. It's not complicated, and I'm trying not to make it complicated. That's how it is. We're setting up these VMs, so that's how it is. Let's see. Someone's asking me a question. I can answer some questions while you're asking. I see someone ask about Windows 11. Someone asked about dual boot. Let's see here, 11. Yeah, I'm not a fan of 11. I don't like 11. He's setting up. I use VMware for mine. I know Windows 11 VMs make you enter the encryption password, so it's annoying. Yeah, I agree with that. What types of things do you recommend for someone that is new to IT to learn with their VM? So, if you're doing IT support or help desk, I always recommend installing Active Directory, and that's how I get started. I'm gonna go over that right now with this. That's why I'm installing this. It's gonna be fun. So we're gonna do some fun stuff on this today. I found with VMware at least I have to disconnect the floppy disk. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, the reason why I use 10, I don't use 11. I only use the operating system Windows 11. It's because I try using RSAT tools, which is like Active Directory, and it's not user friendly. Like it keeps crashing, it keeps breaking. 11 is not ready for RSAT tools. If you try putting RSAT tools on that thing, it's gonna keep it works, but it keeps crashing. It's very very buggy. That's why I use Windows 10. So still installing right now. It's pretty. This isn't that bad. This is pretty easy. It's not complicated. That's usually how this is. This takes a little bit of time, but once we set it up, we will be good to go after this. So, if you guys have any questions, you guys can let me know as we're waiting for this. So this is almost done. 11 it got released because of Stranger Things. At least it's not. At least it's not Windows 11. Not Windows 11. Sorry. At least it's not Windows 8. Windows 8.1 with charms. Remember that?
I never used Windows 8. I stayed with Windows 7 for the longest time.
Windows 8 with charms. Oh boy, it's pain. It's very painful. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so it's just installing updates right now. It's almost done. Give it a second. I see someone just joined. Yeah, I would stay away from Windows Vista and stay away from Windows 8 and 8.1 or Windows 8N, the number 8N. Yeah, stay away from that. All right, so now it's going to restart. I'm gonna right click on it and I'm gonna remove this from virtual disk. We'll just remove the CD because we don't need the CD anymore. It should boot into it now. Let's give it a second. Yeah, they had Windows. So they had Windows 8, they had Windows 8.1, and they had Windows 8N. And 8N doesn't allow you. So 8N does not allow you to download anything on your on your browser. So you cannot download any apps from your computer. You have to download everything from the Microsoft Store. If you have Windows 8N, kind of makes no sense, but it's for tablets and stuff like that. It's like the worst thing ever. Yeah, so I like to do is I like to click on View, virtual screen, and I'm gonna make it 125. Make it a little bit bigger because it's too damn small. So make it a little bit bigger. So it's gonna ask you for a password. This is the password you use to log into the computer. So I'm gonna put a password in there. Give that a second. Yeah, it takes a little bit of like this. It takes a little bit of time. We're almost there though. Almost there. Let me show you some cool tricks actually. So it better they use Windows 8. Yeah, so here now you're in the login screen, right? I'm logged into a server. So you do insert Control Alt Delete. And just make sure you remember that password that you just created. I'm doing that right now. I'm logging in. Now just remember that this is still not set up as a domain controller yet. We have server manager in here. We have a bunch of other stuff in here. It hasn't been set up yet. So yes, the password is password. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so no. It's not password 123. It's password 1234. No. So it's just loading everything. Give it a second. Close out of this. Actually, don't show me this again. All right. So what I like to do first when I'm on a server, right? I always change the name of it. So like I click on this folder, I right click on this PC, I hit properties, right? For some reason, whenever you set up the server, it has a weird wonky name, right? It's a wonky name. So if you hit change settings, I'm gonna change the name of it. I'm gonna hit change, right? So I'm gonna just completely change the name, and I'm gonna put DC NY 01. So usually what they do is if you work, and then because I see John is here, so John can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually we have naming conventions on a server, right? So it will say like DC Chicago, or DC CHG, or DC NY, or DC NJ New Jersey. That's like domain controller, right? So by default, we put a special unique name to it, right? It could be anything that you want to hit. Raices New York. I do that, or I will do that. All right. By default, it could be any name, but we try to keep it uniform and organized, right? Because we want to make sure that name makes sense, right? Because then when people log in and remote into these servers, right, they know where server, where the server is located at and stuff like that. It's very important. So restart now. Let's give that a second. Yeah, so we give unique names to everything. So that's like share folders when you're sharing folders, domain controllers, all this stuff there's a specific way we do it. We do it that way just so everyone knows what's going on. We label everything. So logging in again. HCP rice. Yeah, it's part of the naming convention. You want to make sure you have these names that make sense. So all right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is because it's set up Active Directory. So people get scared like, oh, this is so complicated. It's not complicated. Pretty easy. I'm gonna do add roles and features, right? I'm gonna hit next. And I'm gonna hit next. And here I'm gonna hit Active Directory Domain Services. I'm gonna hit that one. And by default, it's gonna add all these other features in there. This is fine, right? I'm gonna hit next. And here, this is if you want to set it up on Azure AD Connect. That's what this is for. Because sometimes or some environments now have AD Connect, so they have like a hybrid environment, right? So you have Active Directory, and then they have AD Connect attached to it. Because some companies have it on the cloud, some companies don't have it on the cloud, some companies have a combination of both. It really depends on the company. So that's what it is. I'm gonna hit install. So that's it. That's pretty much it for that. Almost done. Now it's setting it up. Yeah, some companies have AD Connect. Some companies are still, they're dinosaurs. They still have everything on prem in the office. So they're still trying to catch up to the cloud. Some companies are, unfortunately, they don't have money to put things on the cloud, or they're still trying to catch up to being on the cloud. So it really depends on the company. Because I worked in a company that nothing's on the cloud, like literally nothing's on the cloud. So now we're gonna promote the domain controller, right? And it says add a domain controller to an existing domain. We're not adding anything to an existing domain. We're actually gonna add a new forest actually. So here I'm just gonna put my name, put Kevtech, Kevtech.com. That's fine. So you see how this works. It's gonna be very interesting right now. And then here is very interesting because it says the forest function level. You could actually make it 2012 R2, 2008 R2. It's very interesting here actually. So I'm gonna make a password real quick. Give me a second. I'm gonna leave that alone. On the next. Yes, a lot of maintenance involved when having it on premise. Yes, exactly. I worked in an environment where everything was on prem. So next. And next. So now with me, I love to teach you different ways of doing things because I don't like to just hit next and install, right? So what the beauty of this is that it gives you a script, right? So I'm gonna do view script. I'm gonna close out of this, right? Close out of this. Yes, exit. I'm gonna close out of this. I'm gonna close out of this, and I'm gonna copy all this. I'm gonna hit copy, and I'm gonna hit PowerShell. I'm gonna type PowerShell in there, right? And I'm gonna do run as admin. Let's give that a second. And I'm gonna do Control V. I'm gonna copy that, and then I'm gonna actually install the services using PowerShell. There we go. So now that's installing the domain controller. So I did it on PowerShell instead of going to the GUI and next, right? I didn't want to do that. I like to do things on PowerShell, so I ran that on PowerShell. So yeah, so that's how I did it. So it's installing right now. Just give it a second. Oh, I actually want to go over one more thing. Now that I have you guys here, actually, one more thing before. So remember I talked about home labs today, right? So it's very important that if you want to do Office Developer Program, you can. Which I don't know if John knows about this, but you could use Office 365 Admin Center for 90 days if you want. Mine expired already, but you could use it for 90 days. So if you want to practice Office 365 on your PC, and it's browser based, right? You can. So like the advantages of doing that, and I'll show you. Let me log in real quick to it while this is being set up, right? The advantages of doing that is you go into Admin Center in developer mode. You get to practice Exchange. You get to practice SharePoint. You get to practice Teams. So if you do Office 365 developer mode, you actually get to touch this for 90 days. And then you could create mailboxes. You could create distribution groups. You could create a bunch of stuff in here. So that's the beauty of Office 365 developer mode. So if you can sign up for free. I'm gonna put it in chat over here. So if you do Office 365 developer mode, I'm gonna copy and paste this and send it to you guys in chat. So that's what it is. You could practice a bunch of other stuff here. And then when I talked about Microsoft, so if I do Microsoft Azure free, right? Create your free account today, right? So you get services for 12 months. You get $200 credit. I'm gonna put that in chat as well. So if you want to do stuff on the cloud, you can. It's there, so take advantage of that. Those are the things that I recommend you do. I don't like people wasting money, or I don't like people spending money when you have so many free resources available, right? So this is what I recommend. And yeah, you could just practice with this. Like this is actually paid. Like I paid for this, but you could get the developer mode. And it's pretty much the same thing, and it's free. So take advantage of that. And this is still it's still doing its thing. So, and then the same thing with AWS. Like if you go in here and you do the AWS free tier, right? It's the same thing. You could go to AWS and you could actually spin up an instance of a VM. There's a long essay there, but yeah, there we go. The same thing. It's free trial, 12 months, always free. They give you a certain amount of money and everything. You just gotta make sure you shut down your VM. So otherwise you're spending money on something. So this is restarting now because they just finished installing it. But yeah, that's what I recommend. And then actually another one is GCP. So GCP actually has free stuff as well. They give you a $300 free credit. So I recommend you could do it on GCP as well. So you do have a lot of free resources. So there is GCP, there's AWS, there's Microsoft Azure, or you could just do what I did, which is today, which is created on VirtualBox or whatever, VMware, whatever works for you, right? So take advantage of the free resources. There's a lot of free resources. So you guys have any questions for me as we're setting this up? Anyone? No? Okay. Yeah, it's still applying settings. It takes a while. Yeah, so these are all the free resources. I'm gonna close out of these ones over here. Still waiting for this to come up. So I definitely recommend that you do get something on the cloud, or just learn it, right? Learn how to build these technologies on the cloud, and especially for skills, right? It's like the cloud is here to stay. The cloud's not going anywhere. So you have to know clouds. You have to know cloud solutions now. If you're working in IT support, or if you're working any job in IT. So take advantage of it. This is almost done. Just waiting for this. I don't wanna make this too long. 'Cause I don't want to bore you guys to death either. Presentation. We're almost done. Cloud is very needed nowadays to get into IT. Yeah, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. Yes, exactly. Keep in mind the name, not too good practice the name of server. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, makes sense. At some point, I want to do I want to do another class on cloud and security because I do have stuff on that. I do want to cover that at some point. Not today, but we will cover that at some point. So this takes a while, by the way. That's why it's like stuck on the screen. This when you install Active Directory, oh man, takes a while. Takes a while to load. So we're almost done though. If you want to advance quick, cloud is a great area to focus long term. Yeah, it is. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. This is installing still. So now I want to go over Today is just Active Directory. And then another day we'll cover other advanced stuff. For another class, and I also want to cover for you guys. I also want to cover Okta SSO. So I want to cover Okta SSO and MFA and how to log in and setting up Okta and stuff like that. So that's something that I want to cover at some point as training as well. And I also want to cover dual two-factor authentication and a couple other things as well for free. So it should be fun. And I am studying my so if you guys don't know, I am studying an Okta admin certification. So I am studying that right now to be certified for Okta. They have Okta certifications right now in September. So if you complete it in September, you only pay $50 for the certification. So
So that's a new certification, right?
yes,
And they provide you with the content for
the
studying.
training.
Okay,
Yep. It's
that's good.
It's only $50. So if you pass and everything, it's only $50. They give you all the free content to train, and you got that on your resume. It looks good on the resume. So I definitely recommend that. I'm gonna post it here after I'm done with this event. I'll post it here. You guys can look at it. So
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
we're gonna review Okta. Yes, well, not today, but I'm gonna make a video on Okta, and I'm gonna cover it here at some point. Yes, we will cover Okta. So
yeah. Just DM me when you want to give a talk. We need the people. We need the speakers for covering every Saturday, and got the space for it. And I don't know how you guys do it, but you like get to know what it's up for next week without knowing. Because next week we have another speaker
mhm.
that will give a class on cloud security. And you mentioned that sadly
Yeah.
it will not be recorded because he
Uh.
asked us to not
Mhm.
record it specifically. So we
Mhm.
won't record it. It's like an exclusive live event. But maybe we can have you again and record that one so we can upload it to the Raices YouTube channel.
Yeah, I want to cover for next time when we meet up. Cause I'm traveling to Texas at the end of this month, so I can't do any presentations right now. But when I come back, I want to cover resumes and IT support and LinkedIn branding. So that will be the next thing we're covering. So my next class will be resumes and LinkedIn branding and how to brand your LinkedIn profile. I'm gonna cover that in our next class. So today is just a little bit of hands-on training, but then I also want to cover how to brand yourself on LinkedIn, how to sell yourself on LinkedIn, and how to add emails and how to add somebody as a friend on LinkedIn and build connections with people on LinkedIn. So I do want to cover that when I come back. So
Sounds great.
yep. So see here now Active Directory is set up. So this is very interesting right here. So I have Active Directory right here. It isn't that bad. It's pretty easy. It's not complicated. Like, I don't know what people make things complicated for some reason when they teach stuff. This is not complicated. So it's already set up. The domain controller is right here. It's kevtech.com, right? We have a folder called users right over here. And what I do is I like to show you guys a couple of things, right? It's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to minimize that, right? I'm going to close out of this. And I'm actually going to pin this, right? Just to have it there. I'm going to close out of it. So what I do is I usually like to show this to everyone. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys are familiar with this, but you're not. Maybe you watch any of my other videos, you should be familiar with this. But we have a bunch of stuff here. We have Windows systems, Windows PowerShell, ease of access, Windows administration tools. So I'm going to open up this one, Active Directory Administration Center, right? I'm going to click on that. Just give that a second. Yeah, I am going to cover networking and LinkedIn branding. I actually have a person that does that. So let me see. I'm going to reach out to him. But yeah. All right. So we're going to go to Kevtech, right? And I'm going to do is I'm going to enable recycle bin. So if you go to the right-hand side, I'm going to enable recycle bin. So just give it a second. So that allows you to basically restore user accounts or restore certain things on Active Directory if someone messes up on their on the server, if that makes sense. So obviously we don't give people access to the whole server. We don't do that in a job environment. So that's one thing I forgot to mention is that we don't give people access to the whole server. That doesn't make any sense, right? Unless you're a server admin. And even them, like sometimes they may not even have access to that. So you give people access to what's called RSet tools. It's a little different, right? So if you go to program, and you go here and you do programming features, optional features, right? And you'll see RSet tools in here. So like, obviously I have it here. I'm not going to set it up, but usually this is what's installed on your physical machine. If you have a laptop or a desktop, or if you have some machine that's assigned to you by your company, usually they give you RSet tools. They won't give you the whole thing. That doesn't make any sense, right? If we give you access to a whole server, you break the whole server. We don't do that, right? So they give you like access to RSet tools. That's just wanted to go over that real quick. Yeah, so this is set up already.
One question, quick question. That recycle bin works like a normal desktop recycle bin that gets clean every, let's say, 30 days or never.
So that is there's a policy for it. Yes, I'm not sure if I think it's every 60 days or something like that. There's a policy in there for this, but yeah, this is the recycle bin. I enable it. So like if I go here, I'll show you actually. So if I go here, see that a second. I'm gonna make a new user account, and we're gonna call it Leo, right? And we're gonna call it Leo, and I'm gonna hit next. I'm gonna leave this alone, right? Just gonna put welcome one as the password, right? Leo is set up now, right? And then we got Infinite over here, right, in chat, right? Infinite is the new help desk person, right? He just got the job. He got hired. He started today, right? And Infinite goes into the server. They give him access to the server. They accidentally gave him access to the server. They gave him too much access, right? Like, oh crap! So he went here and they told him that Leo got let go of the company, so you needed to terminate that employee, right? But Leo is terminated, but we disable accounts. We don't delete accounts, right? So then Infinite accidentally deleted the account. So he goes and deletes the account, and it's like, oh crap, he deleted the account, right? And then Infinite is like, okay, I don't know how to fix this. Let me let the server admin know. So then the server admin remotes into this VM or this server, right? And he tries to put him back. So then you could go in here, which is where I was before, right? If you go in here and you go into Azure Directory Administration Center, and you saw I enabled a recycle bin, right? So this is the recycle bin. So you could go in here, you go to deleted objects, and you'll see a bunch of stuff here. So Leo is right here. If you see him, all you do is restore. And now when you go and close out of this, and if you go back, Leo should be back there now. So Leo should be here now. So, and he should be around here. Probably got moved somewhere. I gotta go look for him. So that's the restore button right there, by the way. So if you wanna I mean, I'd play around with it. Like if you ever want to, like if you ever have deleted objects in here, you could always restore them back. Like here is the deleted objects. Here is the properties. It tells you a bunch of stuff over here. You'll play around with this. So I'm gonna go to users. Oh, Leon is right there now. There we go. I'm like, what? I'm like, why is he not showing up? So I probably gotta refresh it. Refresh it. Let me see. Maybe I gotta close out of this and reopen it again. Yeah. So there he is. All right. Yeah. So this is kind of cool. You could always restore the user if they're not there anymore, right? So another cool thing I want to show you, which is kind of cool. So like this is the admin, right? This is the built-in admin, and if you go and double click on him and you go to member of, right? He's part of all these groups, right? You could make a clone of him, so you could copy him and clone him. So if you right click on him, you do copy, and I'm just gonna type help desk, right? Right, and then I'm gonna just change this. I'm gonna hit next, finish. So now if I go to help desk, since I cloned him, right, he has the same. He's part of the same groups. That's what that is, right? That's pretty much what it is. So some companies they use PowerShell. Some companies copy it in the existing employee. So like if you right click on the employee, you do copy. You could copy that employee. Sometimes you don't want to manually add them to 1,000 groups, right? Sometimes we do copy and then we right click and copy the user, right? And then we just manually remove some of the groups that they don't want to be part of, right? Or we could do it on PowerShell. It's entirely up to you. So that's one thing, right? That's how I did it over here. So that's what it is. And the other thing I want to show you real quick is if you do view, right? And if you do advanced features right here, it changes everything, right? This changes everything. And you go to users, right? And if I double click on Leo, it gives me more information about Leo. Now if I go to attribute editor, this is where you go and find out the information about this. So it tells you bad password count. How many times did he use a bad password? 0, right? If you scroll all the way down, it gives you more information about him. If you scroll all the way down, it gives you more information about him. You just keep going down. This is an IPv phone. Tells you what folders they're part of. If you scroll all the way down, it tells you when they changed, when the password was changed, when the account was created. It gives you a bunch of information, which is kind of cool. So that's what advanced features does. It gives you more tabs and more stuff available on AD, and you can see all that good stuff. And then the other thing I want to show you is if you go into Server Manager, right? You open up Server Manager, and if you go in here, and if you go to Tools, right, and you go to Group Policy Management, right? This is where things get interesting because you could set up policies and stuff like that. So if you go in here and you do default domain policy, you hit OK, right? You have details, you have settings. That's fine. I'm going to allow it, add, right? It's complaining about that. And then you do show all, right? And it tells you all the information about your policy, right? It says enforce policy history 24 passwords. Remember, maximum password age 42 days. Maximum password, minimum password age 1 day, minimum password length 7 days, and then here you just play around with this. And then if you want, you could make changes on your policy. You just edit your policy and make changes here. Like for example, this is a policy that I would change. If I go in here, right, password policy, right, and it says minimum password and lockout policy, it's not defined. It's actually 0, right? So this is where you would change your policy. Obviously, someone logs in, 0 invalid attempts. That doesn't make any sense, right? You have to put some sort of policy, right? So if you go and double click on it, right, you change it to 1, right? You hit apply, and it's going to tell you how it's defined, right? You hit OK. So it gives you more information. So they get locked out. So now going forward, the user gets locked out, right? After duration is 30 minutes, you have to wait a reset count of 30 minutes. So this policy stuff is pretty cool. You can change wallpapers. You do a bunch of stuff here. I'm not going to go over group policy in depth today, but I just wanted to show you that real quick. And someone asked me a question, what are group policies, Kevin? So Group policy basically is it allows you to make changes on the back end on a computer. So any changes you make on group policy, it affects the user or it affects the PC. So like, I don't know if you guys remember, or I don't know if you guys ever gone to a library. You know how you log in and go to a computer on a library? It has a unique wallpaper on it. You could actually do that on group policy. So here I could put a wallpaper. The user logs in, and then there's our terms of agreement, and there's a wallpaper. So basically, a group policy allows you to make changes, allows you to create security changes on that physical computer. So basically, you could disable the start menu. You could block flash drives because maybe someone has a flash drive that has a virus on it, right? You could block it in group policy. Maybe you want to change the minimum password requirements. You could change that in group policy. Maybe you want an application or software to install automatically. You could put that in group policy. Maybe you want a printer that you wanted to map automatically. You could put it in group policy. So group policy has a lot of stuff in it that you can do in there. So much. It's very like if I had to go over group policy, I'll be here till tomorrow because there's like so many things you go over in group policy. So hopefully that answers your question. Um, yeah, and that's it. That's it for today. I don't wanna make this long and boring, but um, that's for yeah, policy. That's about it for me. I'm gonna stop sharing, Leo. Hopefully, hopefully you guys found this very helpful for today. Please let me know, and I do want to make more. I do want to make more content, but I don't want to make it 2 hours long, 3 hours long. So just wanted to cover like an overview of everything. Hopefully, this helps people out.
Yeah, thanks for giving this amazing class, a lot of information, really in depth on how to set up your domain controller for your domain. And that's the first thing you need to learn for a enterprise environment because you won't be working with normal computers, personal computers. You will be working with enterprise computers, with enterprise software, enterprise solutions, and this is the start of everything. So thank you
Yeah,
guys, everyone, for coming in. And if you have any parting words, Kev, go ahead.
like I said earlier, in the presentation, you have to believe in yourself. Remember, I started from zero. I'm a perfect example of someone that started from zero. So if you ever have doubt in yourself, never doubt yourself. Seek out help in the community. Like I'm in Raices Cyber, we're in Raices Cyber. Come to Raices Cyber and ask for help. Ask for a helping hand. Raices Cyber is not just Hispanics. It's everyone. It's a community, right? So
It's
I
our
always ask
alias,
people to reach out.
allies.
Yes, allies. I always ask people to reach out. Come by. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to speak up, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Everyone's here to help you. We all want you to win, but you can't win in life if you don't ask for help. Right? So ask for help. That's my advice. So
Yeah, thank you for those words.
yep.
And see you next time, guys, next week. Bye.
Bye.